Good evening. Welcome to Earth to the Other Side. I'm John Glasspool. I'm speaking with Joseph Martin, who wrote this book here, The Ascension Guide, Channeled Messages from Archangel Ariah. Very connected, a man of many hats, Reiki master, channeler, very interesting human being. Welcome to the show. Glad to have you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on. It's a pleasure
My
to be
pleasure.
here.
My pleasure. Pleasure is all mine.
You know a little bit about my story.
Mhm.
This book started in July 2021. I went to randomly, and the actual story starts long before, but I'll give a quick. It's in the book too, but so I'd been kind of nudging my wife to do Reiki for a long time, and she ended up through some of her own synchronicities meeting up with this lady who gave her now she's Reiki master, but she was getting her level one at the time. And this was all through COVID, so we hadn't, or she hadn't actually met her. Everything was through Zoom, and she got her whole initiation, all that through the Zoom. And so we went out to go meet her one day. They were having like a crystal convention where they had a vendor come through, and we met her. And while we were there, I just happened to ask. I was like, "Do you happen to do past life regressions at all?" And she said yes. And so that's kind of where the book starts. I went to go get a past life regression done, um, mostly out of curiosity, I think. I'd kind of been on a spiritual path before that. I kind of had my awakening back in like 2012, but so we went and had this past life regression, and through the past life regression, I went through a couple of lives, and ended up my guardian angel came through and I started channeling my guardian angel. And a couple of sessions in, we started to realize that they wanted us to write a book and to write all these messages that were coming through. And we had started recording just using my phone. I wanted to hear originally just a past life regression. I wanted to hear, what I had to say and how it went, and if my voice changed, all the things that you're curious about. And then it ended up being, I think, around a 2 hour channeling session, getting all kinds of information from my guardian angel, whose name is Archangel Ariah. And so from there, I wrote the book, and we started writing the book. We were doing these sessions. There's 10 total, I believe, channeling sessions in the book, that are just, it's verbatim, the transcript basically. So I can't even really take credit. I'm just like the editor, I guess. So it's not really my book. I just kind of transcribed the events that took place. And on one of the last events, Jesus ended up coming through and giving me the ability to heal. And um, it was one of it's weird even saying it now, is people who watch your channel probably are at least somewhat understanding of that. But for people who've known me, I didn't even believe in God before really any of this stuff. Like I was pretty, I was, science and all the, I knew there was something more, but I really had no idea. I thought Jesus was maybe like a magician back in the day. I kind of like, I
Would you
really
consider
wasn't.
yourself maybe as an agnostic or at the time?
Perhaps, like, I always knew something more, but religion never, like, I was always repelled by religion because I felt the control and the
Mhm.
constraint of it. And obviously a lot of the other darker things, too. But yeah, so I was always kind of repelled by it. And even now, my, like, saying Jesus or, God or these things are still kind of terms that I have to kind of rewrap my head around, because I had been so repelled by the religious aspect of things. Um, so having that experience and meeting him and feeling his energy and feeling the so basically what happened is we were coming out of a channeling session, and I heard a voice say to call on Jesus. And so I told the lady that I was doing these sessions with, and she called him in, and he came. The first thing excuse me, first thing I saw were hands going like this. And it was interesting because when I was a kid, there was a painting in one of my grandparents' house where it was just hands, and there was like white light coming out of it. And you, like, it didn't say it was Jesus, but you just kind of like, you got that feeling, from the picture. And it was exactly like that. And when I was a kid, I always just thought it was metaphor, like light coming out of the hands, whatever. And this was exactly the same image. And I saw his hands like this, and there was just white light coming out of him towards me. And then it became where I could see him with his hands behind him, and then eventually the white light just engulfed everything, and I couldn't see, but I could hear him, like it, not hear, but like telepathic. Anybody who's had like a telepathic communication knows what I'm talking about. It's like like the words are just in your head somehow.
Sometimes images, depending. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, he kind of told me like my mission, and to kind of accept who I was and what I was here to do, and to embrace kind of this gift that he was bestowing upon me to help others with. And that was right around the end of the first book, that you have, that kind of describes all the different things that happened, describes his channeling sessions, described exactly, that was all recorded. And so you get to hear the whole thing, how my reaction and everything. So you're gonna get to read exactly how it went down. And so anyways, through all of this, what I've learned is that I am Archangel Ariah. I am a aspect of Archangel Ariah who is here in this realm to do the work here. And so I have that connection, that multidimensional connection that you're talking about. So they have told me that I am I believe the 11th dimensional aspect of what they are, a 10 to 12 dimension being, I guess. And so I would be the 11th that came here to help, and according to
so there's 10
others
then, basically, was what you mean, in various other realms.
I would imagine that the way I am starting to understand things, that we probably have an aspect of ourselves in every dimension. And it's probably, I don't know if you're familiar with like Bashar, or if any of your audience members maybe, but he has talked about something similar where Bashar is like his fifth dimensional aspect of him. And so it's like him in the future, but we know time doesn't exist, so everything's happening now. So that's kind of the understanding that I've come to, is we're all multidimensional beings. I'm just being able to contact my other dimensional self, essentially.
In our dreams, could that be one of the other dimensions of ourselves? I mean, one of the other aspects of ourselves, or a piece of ourselves that's living in another dimension, and we're just kind of like tapping into it. Same thing with meditation. Does that make any sense?
Absolutely. And I think so, because I'm not sure if it's in the book, but we've asked in one of the channeling sessions, because there was a time period when I first started this portion. I kind of look at my my spiritual growth as like two really big kind of ramps, and then it plateaued, and then now I'm on like another, this is like the second big one. So since then, like I was having dreams where I just felt like I was training. I've done multiple different things, from like levitating to breathing underwater to learning tarot, a bunch of, I can't even think now, healing, different types of healings. And it's interesting to me, because when I do the healings now, or do sessions, or do channelings or dreams, the place that I go is very similar. And when I come back, what I remember is about the same. Like it's, when I don't have a recording of something, I'm kind of a lot of times going based on what other people tell me happened, because I don't remember a lot of what comes through. But yeah, I do think when we're in dreams that we are either, I don't know if we're living out other dimensional aspects of ourselves, or if we're going into other states to, is it sort of our body's resting, but our soul can go on and do other things, or like, I'm sure people astral travel and other things like that. So I think it's all kind of that same thing, where it gives us time to, reflect or learn things, or go to, because everybody's had weird dreams of, different possibilities or scenarios of things happening. And so I think we do play out some of our fears and some other things in the dream world, where we can snap out of it a little easier, so to speak. So yeah, I think that's all part of it. I'm shaking like crazy if you can't tell, and that's because the energy is just like flowing through here.
I love it. I love it. You mentioned something interesting about memory, because like, like not remembering the dreams, or not remembering astral projections, and various things. I think and in your case, like with all the past life regressions that you've done, and if you set the intention to remember it, I find it helps, because even with my astral projections, something that I do on a regular basis, in the very beginning, well, with the exception of the first one, several projections in the beginning, I came back not remembering that well, and I found it odd, because I'd seen so many accounts on YouTube and here and there, people talking about how vivid and crazy it was. And I'm like, why am I not remembering this? Basically, what I had done is in the meditation, I set my intention to really focus and remember where I projected and what happened, so I could at least benefit from it somehow. Hopefully.
Yeah.
And it worked. It worked, and the same thing for my dreams. Like I had such a difficult time remembering dreams. The only ones I remembered were the lucid ones, and that's if I woke up like almost immediately after. Otherwise, I'm not even sure.
There's
Yeah.
times where, like, when I was having what I was telling to you about before, like it was clear that there was stuff going on. Like I knew,
Yeah.
I mean, there was images. It was and I felt like I was going somewhere else and doing something at night. I didn't feel like I was resting.
Right.
I felt like I was just working at night too. And so
Right.
it was,
We're spiritual beings, right? So obviously, our soul isn't going to just sleep while our physical body sleeps, right?
take care of other business.
And I was just curious, like before, like whether or not this is something.
Definitely is. And I have trying to think about reality sometimes. And, that's such a interesting word now to me, especially because my reality has expanded quite a bit over the past 2 years or however long it's been, coming up on 2 years. So the dimensions and other aspects that I've seen, and I didn't even really, you can't really comprehend that they exist until you've experienced it in some way. And then it's like trying to explain a painting to a blind person. It's like, how do you, how do you explain it to somebody? And
Wow, that's a really good way to put it.
yeah, I mean, you've been somewhere
Yeah.
that most people can't even comprehend. And, some people go there with, different drugs, and, sometimes it's, meditation or yoga was a way that I got to some of these places. Like Ariah showed me their dimension one time when I was doing a yoga session. I mean, it was, and that's the thing with a lot of this stuff is anybody can do these things if you're willing to put in the time and what it takes. And what it takes is going to be different for every person. Every person is going to be at a different level of consciousness and a different level of understanding and belief and all the other things that go into how easy it's going to be for you to unlock certain levels of what this reality is and what it contains. And if you're still, like the one metaphor that has been given to me is, most people are tuned into the AM FM dial. And when you pick up satellite radio, they have no idea how to interpret that because they're only picking up AM FM. And so when you go to that next level, it's very hard for people to understand what you're saying. It's very hard for them to even grasp the concepts that some of us are being shown or awakened to.
These things are so simple, and there's so much
Mm-hmm.
an inherent part of us. We were born with it, and then we ripped it off intentionally, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a shame. Like I get it, we're here to experience life, and I want to experience it as well, and but I don't see anything wrong with experiencing it as a spiritual being. Like, why not? It's to help us ascend and spiritually evolve, right?
Right. Absolutely. I
But
see the
sometimes
same way.
people, yeah,
And I think the one thing that we have to remember, though, is that at one point we were all captivated by the machine, and we were all victims of the matrix, or however you want to look at it. There was one point where everybody believed the news, and everybody, there was whatever it was, whatever to whatever degree you were captured by it. We were all there at one point, and we have to remember that there was something that somebody said, or something that you read, or somewhere that changed your mind and sparked your interest and got you to where you are now. And so
new
if you can
belief
be that
system.
for somebody else, I think that's the key. But
Oh
it's
yeah,
also,
yeah.
as Ariah has told me many times, be a road sign. People can take your advice or not. Don't be out there trying to, change the world and, tell people they need to believe this. And I think that's the biggest thing with all this too is, there's a lot of like this, my truth, which I think it's kind of been hijacked what the original meaning was. And I don't know that I fully agree with the whole concept of it, but what I get it from it is that if it seems true to you and you're going down and you feel this resonation of truth that is pulling you in a certain direction, to pay attention to that, because there's something that I feel with a lot of this stuff that it's not me learning or discovering something new. It's almost like I'm remembering in a lot of cases. And so I think that's why it feels true. That's why it resonates in the way that it does with us. Is it's not, somebody made a nice, sales pitch. It's that we're remembering that this is true. This is what we've experienced before, so to speak. We're going through this ascension process, right? Everybody, we're purging. We're purging all of the darkness. The energy is rising, and as it rises, it's taking all of the stuff that has been dormant within ourselves, and it's getting it out. Or you're probably going to die, unfortunately, because that's kind of how this thing goes. But it's rising. Like the metaphor that Ariah used the best probably was the hot tub. When a hot tub's sitting at 70 degrees, everybody can sit in it. And as you turn up the heat, people start to jump out. And that's kind of what's happening through the ascension. As the consciousness level rises, you either rise with it or you got to get out and, you go do this somewhere else. And it's like, I wrote the book, but I didn't write the book. I just typed it out, I don't like to, but they, and that's one thing that's been very interesting too, is kind of learning that along the way of, because I think, I really do believe everybody channels in their own way. I believe everybody's connected. I believe some people, you just got to learn to know when it's them and when it's you, and be able to use your discernment and know what one thing that got me on the right track. One tip that they provided for me was to listen to when you say I, me, we, or you. So who's saying you? Who's saying we? Obviously, we know who's saying I, but who's saying the other ones? And then ask and see what you get. And so those are ways to kind of get those, little confirmations. But like you were saying before with, we were talking about music and stuff, like the music is just, it's out there. You just got to tap into it and bring it back into this world. And Ariah, that's one of their specialties is music. And so we're always, writing songs and doing that sort of thing. And yeah, and it's very, you had talked about kind of like that writer's block and stuff before, and I used to experience that like crazy. And now I have what I call writer's flow, where it just is, if I plug my guitar and there's a song being written pretty much. So it's very cool. It's just cool to kind of surrender and, just let it flow through you. And it's interesting the same way that I feel like every song has a dance to it. It's when you feel that music coming in through you, and if you ever get caught in that swirl, you know what I'm talking about, and you can feel how it just kind of moves you. And if you just let yourself go with that. And I've been doing that more and more, where I just, even when I do the healings and stuff, where my hands will I was just doing it downstairs before I came up here, my hands will just start doing their own thing, and I'm like, all right, just let them go and do whatever they're doing. I don't know. But
not to get too weird, but I mean, I have a lot of similar experiences like what you're describing in the shower,
Yeah.
And one time, I don't think I'm going to put this in the video, but there was one time I was going through a low point, and still feeling very connected, but I was having a low point, and I'm in the shower and I'm washing my hair, but I'm clearly aware that I'm not washing my hair. Of course it's my hands, and
right.
My brain is sending the signals to move my hands, but there's something very strong that's present, and that is, I can feel it. It's very obvious. It's not even like, oh, is it really, is this happening? No, it clearly felt like I was at the mercy of someone else. And it was such that feeling that you can't describe, like what you said, describing a painting to a blind person.
Yeah,
I can't describe it. It was so powerful. One of the most amazing moments that I've ever had.
It is. And it's when you feel that energy, and then you feel that there's something more that's moving around us and through us and everything, all of it. It's a very, that's why I said it's that satellite radio, when you realize there's a lot more going around us than we realized, and that grows. Every time I was joking the other day, because I my connection is pretty much constant, and so there's a constant dialogue pretty much. But thinking about how every time I do something new, or it's some new modality of healing or whatever that we come across that we're using or doing, and I'm like, man, I guess we reached the pinnacle. And they're like, when are you going to realize that there is no, there's always going to be something new and something greater and better, and the next thing. So it's very exciting at the same time. the most recent thing, just because we're on the same topic of where you said feeling that coming through you, is I've started to channel Archangel Raphael during the healing sessions, where I just basically turn it over to him now, and I'm just kind of the instrument, and he moves my hands, does his thing, and he'll talk to people and give them the information, and it's very cool. So, and when he comes on, like when I start to feel him coming through, I just get this smile on my face that I can't even, and it's just, I start to go in that flow, and I'll just get this huge smile on my face, and I just feel this.
Yeah.
And
You feel the energy, you feel the color. Actually, let's talk about that. Like, how do you how do you determine who's coming to you and who you're channeling, if it comes, all day long and it's constant?
It's been a lot of just asking, like, who are you? Who's talking to me? And sometimes it's it's you. Sometimes it's your, like you're talking to yourself. It's your inner dialogue. Or sometimes I've had Sophocles. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He was a Greek playwright. Well, he is very offended that he is relegated to simply a playwright. He was a Renaissance man, he says. But yeah, I've channeled him. I've channeled Archangel Raphael. The only ones that have actually spoken through me are Archangel Raphael and Archangel Ariah. The other ones I've had, like where you're talking about in meditation, or like in sessions, either when I'm getting Reiki sessions or when I'm giving Reiki sessions. That's when I'm like the most connected. So I'm kind of a natural skeptic myself, which they have alluded to that being one of the reasons I was chosen to do this, is because it was hard for me to fully jump on board with what was going on. And I'm still, even sometimes to this day, I'm like, is my subconscious just like on this elaborate ruse that, but it's like the things that I've channeled and the things like, I don't even, I don't know half of the stuff, or like Archangel Raphael, his accent, I can't replicate it. I can't do it it's very strange. So, and then the words, there's certain words that they'll use that I'm like, I've never used that word in like he calls my dog doggos. And I've never used the word doggos in my entire life. And so it's just, there's certain things that I'm like, oh, that's definitely not something I would say or do, or, so
I know
that's
exactly
where
what you mean. That's what I keep trying to describe to my friends. Like, they're like, how do you know, it's not just your dialogue. Well, I mean, sometimes I don't know, but most of the time it's pretty obvious because it's something that you couldn't have made up, or, you feel the difference. It's easy to differentiate because it's not you thinking of it. It's something that's coming at you.
Absolutely, yes.
Unless you're,
and if you ask a question and you get an answer to it that you didn't know, like where does that come from?
Exactly.
And I've had that happen plenty of times. I've had times where I'm questioning something, and like one of the funny things that they said to me, I hope I can replicate it exactly, but it was, you're so busy being skeptical that you're blocking us. It was something to the effect of like, you're so busy being skeptical that you're blocking us out while you're trying to think of reasons why it's not us, or something to that effect. And they're showing me like going, and so it's just funny how, and it's just natural for most people to, what is this? I mean, it's crazy. It sounds crazy. I get how it sounds. And that's why, I don't tell a lot of people. I tell people in this, arena. We've more recently started to tell people around us and family and friends and that sort of thing.
When you're shooting yourself in the foot by being so skeptical, right? I wonder if they're chuckling sometimes, like,
oh yeah, they laugh at me a lot. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.